In this video, we'll build upon an existing style sheet and enhance it with element IDs as style roles using the new CSS management tools in Visual Studio 2008. You'll see how you can use the Direct Style Application toolbar to create styles as you design your page, killing two birds with one stone. Earlier, we had created a style sheet that contained style roles for elements and custom classes. We'll be adding a third type of style sheet role, element IDs. In this video, we're going to build a few rules to handle the behavior of a page-specific layout, the page layout for videos. Video files are best represented with a clickable image that takes you right to the stream. It helps if those files are laid out in a way that makes navigation easy. We'll show you how you can set up such a layout using cascading style sheets. In Visual Studio 2008, select File, Open, Project. We're going to build upon an existing project that we created in previous CSS videos. You can opt to create it from scratch by following along in the previous videos, or you can just download the working copy in the code downloads for this video. So wherever you downloaded that code, select Open to open the solution file. Alternatively, inside the download accompanying this video, you'll find a code snippet file. Inside, you'll find the code to create our new style roles. You can copy-paste them directly into the global CSS file, or, much preferably, if you'd like to learn how to use the tools, create them by scratch by following along in this video. Let's open up the default ASPX page by double-clicking on it. As you can see, so far we have a layout that shows us the top-level navigation as well as a header. We'll want to add some structure to show our video files. Let's begin by adding another div. Type in div inside the code window, and then you can see the div that's created below in the design view. Make sure you're using the split view by selecting the split option down below. We'll be continuing to build the structure for this div by including internal left div and right divs to represent the two columns. But first, let's focus on this main one and build out a style for it. If you click on the div, either in your design window or your code, and take a look on the right lower side of your screen, you'll see that there's three windows: CSS Properties, Manage Styles, and Apply Styles. Alternatively, at the very top left side of your screen, you'll also notice another style management tool. This is called the Direct Style Application toolbar, and this allows us to craft the structure of our video page. In this case, we want an element ID to represent our style for this div. When do we want to use element IDs versus classes? You'll want to use element IDs for items that occur once on a page, like in this case, the structure for the divs for video content. You'd want to use classes when you plan on reusing that style across various elements. For example, in this case, we have this horizontal menu. We might want to use that structure again and again for different types of menus in our website. In this case, we use a class for this. The period prefix makes it a class, as you saw earlier. For other basic constructs, such as the elements, you can use the element itself as a style role, which is great for setting default attributes. So now let's see what happens when we want to work with IDs. Let's click inside the div, and what we can do is go to the Manage Styles toolbar. We can optionally click on this New Style button, or we can right-click inside the div and select New Style. Either way, this will launch up the New Style wizard. At the very top, we can choose a selector. Because we're going to be using element IDs, we'll want to prefix them with pound signs. So what we can do for the selectors, we could choose from an existing list, such as div, and in order to specify an ID for this, we'll use the pound sign, and we'll type in video main. The next thing we can do is define where we want this style. By default, it says current page. We know we have an existing style sheet, so let's go ahead and leverage that. That way we can keep our styles centralized in one place. Using the selector div pound sign video main allows us to use the ID attribute of our elements. If the ID matches the pound prefix name, in this case video main, then the style will automatically be picked up. The next thing we'll need to do is specify the URL. In this case, we're going to be using the global CSS. We only have one style sheet, so that's the one that we show in our options. Now finally, we'll set our style. Go to the block category. Let's set the text align to be right. For the background, let's set this to be white. If you notice, you'll see document colors. This is a very useful feature. The document colors iterates through all the colors that are being used in your document and allows you to give a consistent look and feel. That's all we need to do here, so let's click OK. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, if you select the Manage Styles, you'll see that we have now the div for video main. If we'd like to apply that, it's simply a matter of just clicking on the div, right-clicking on the style that you wish to apply, and going ahead and saying Apply Style. If you notice, the tag for the div has now changed. The other thing you'll notice in the code, we now have an ID, video main. This is what we mean by element IDs. Instead of using the class attribute, you use the ID attribute to specify the style for that particular element. Now we'll add two more divs. This will represent our left and right columns. We'll add a div on the left for video title. We'll just add a placeholder for that. And we'll add a second internal div for the video list. Now let's experiment with using the Direct Style toolbar. At the very top, you can see that you can choose from two different formats, auto or manual. You'll want to use auto when you want Visual Studio to dictate where your styles go. If you want to have more control over them, use manual. Let's go ahead and select manual. And then for the target rule, in this case, we're going to go ahead and choose Apply New Style, because we're going to be creating a brand new style from scratch. This pops up the new style wizard. At the very top, we're going to add another element ID, another div, but in this case, we'll call it Video Left. Keep it in the existing style sheet and add some attributes. For block, let's choose text align left. For position, we'll go ahead and position it so it takes up 20% of the width. So we'll put in 20, and then we'll select the percent. So now this column will take up 20% of the real estate between the two divs that we have in our main div. Last, let's choose layout. For layout, we're going to float this to the left. So by default, it'll dock to the left-hand side of the container div. And let's click OK. As you can see, the div automatically picked up the ID, video left, and applied the formatting. As you can see, it's floating to the left, and you can tell that the style is being applied. Now let's go ahead and work with our last div. Let's highlight that, right-click, and select New Style. In this case, we'll call it Div Video Right. Let's set the attributes again. For block, we'll do text align left. For position, this time we'll take up the remaining width, in this case 80%. And then for layout, we'll also float this to the left. Click OK. You now have a video main, a video left, and a video right. If we take a look inside our global CSS file, and we scroll to the bottom, we'll see that these new element IDs have been added. So now we have regular elements for body, H1, H2. We have classes for the nav horizontal, and at the very bottom we now are using element IDs. So all three different types of style rules inside of our style guide. Now let's add three classes for style rules to identify how we're going to show the list of items inside the right-hand div. Let's go inside the right-hand div and we'll type in a UL, unordered list. While we're doing this, let's take a look at the CSS Properties windows and see what's going on in that window. We'll sync our changes in the design and scroll over to the right-hand side of your screen. Here you'll see the CSS Properties window. If you've been working with style sheets already, you can appreciate how elaborate and complex the rules will get, especially considering the levels of hierarchy and overriding rules, inheritance, etc. How can you tell which one of the many rules are in effect for your element? Without a tool, it's quite difficult. Fortunately, Visual Studio 2008 provides the CSS Properties window to help you interpret style sheet application.